Okay, everyone ready? Okay, so welcome, ladies and gentlemen and viewers. We are here with our Woman Crush Wednesday, and our Woman Crush of the Week this week is Miss Jennifer Slay.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Jennifer.
And it just happens to be International Women's Day as well, does it not?
It is.
Awesome. So I'm really excited to have you because you're another coach.
I am.
Perfect. So we're going to get into it. Also, we have here Vinny Chase. Do you want to say hello?
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Little Miss Chris is with us.
Hey.
And we also have someone from legal. Nicely done. Just making sure she keeps me out of jail, I guess, eh? Too risque, these episodes.
That's right.
Anyway, we are outnumbered, Vinny Chase. It is, which is great for Woman Crush Wednesday and for International Women's Day. I am wearing red today. Red is the color. We're at pretty much everyone. And look what else I got. I've got it up here too.
Red elastic in your
Red elastic in my hair.
Very good.
It's all about the ladies tonight. So, Jen, so thanks for being here, first of all. We appreciate having you.
Thank you for having me.
For anyone out there that doesn't know you, and we're going to, just so you know, we're going to be looking at this camera more so than the other ones. These are the live feeds. This is the professional feed.
Okay.
If for anyone that doesn't know you, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and who you are, what you do, and that sort of thing.
Well, it all started back in the 70s. I moved to London about almost 20 years ago.
Okay.
Over 20 years ago.
London, Ontario.
London, Ontario. That's
Right.
And I came here to go to school.
Okay.
Fell into social work.
Okay.
And I've been doing social work for about 20 years.
Okay.
And so over the last few years, I've gone through my own kind of transformation, deciding, you know what do I really want to do with my life? And I decided I wanted to be a life coach.
Okay.
And I've opened my own private practice in counseling, coaching, and motivational speaking.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's exciting.
Yes, it is.
How are you finding the motivational speaking? How do you find that?
I love it.
Were you nervous at all when you did it your first time?
I'm always nervous. Before I go on stage, no matter what I'm doing,
Yeah.
I have that rumbling in my belly, and it's like, ooh. But then, you're on stage for about 10, 15 seconds, and
It kind of levels out.
it levels out.
What are your tricks? Do you picture the audience naked?
I do not.
You do not.
I do not.
I do that all the time. Well, I do that without the audience. I just do that with people in general. But that's just me. So,
Good to know.
yeah, there you go. We're all naked right now. Everybody comfortable? Okay, good. So motivational speaking, you fell into social work, and now you are a life coach with clients and building your practice.
Yes.
That's exciting. So what made you decide that you wanted to become a life coach?
About, I think it was about 10 years ago, I had a friend that was going through the program of becoming a life coach. And he said, Jen, do you mind if I practice on you? I was like, yeah, sure, no problem.
Yeah.
And so I went through that, and I'm like, oh, that's amazing. That was amazing. Because it's not counseling, but it's a way of getting you to recognize things about yourself and choices that you're making that you don't normally look at.
Right.
Right? You just become a bit more self-aware of the things that you're doing.
Sure.
And I thought, you know what? I'd love to do that for other people. And I always had an excuse for why I couldn't go through with it. And then the last couple of years, I'm like, I'm just doing it.
Fuck it, I'm doing it.
I'm just doing it.
Right on.
That's right.
So in any of your clients, have you been noticing some of that self-awareness in them? Are you passing that on? Do you see these changes taking place?
I do.
Okay, so you see that.
I do, and it's so exciting. Like,
Right.
I love when the light bulbs go off.
Okay.
Because all you're really doing is asking a lot of pointed questions, right?
Yep.
And they're like, oh, yeah.
Right.
Why can't I do this? And they just go on, and then the momentum builds, and they just go for it.
Right.
And
So
that's exciting.
So you and I are both coaches in different kind of ways. I mean, I'm a sex coach, so I follow a wheel that focuses on a MEBS model. So a MEBS model means that basically there's a wheel, and you focus on how much of that wheel you basically rate it out of you can rate it out of 10 or whatever, but it's mind, emotion, body and body image, energy, and spirit. So I go around the wheel and I rate myself as to where I am, and I find my weak areas, I find my strong areas, and I try to put that into balance, which is really what life's all about, is balance, right? So when you do this with your clients, you said before that you kind of focus on setting goals and attaining those goals, but you also kind of said a few different areas that made it almost like you're still following the same system as the wheel.
Yeah. So I became certified in coaching through Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise, and one of their what they really tell us to focus on, and what they focus on, is looking at every area of a person's life. So it's very similar.
Right.
It's just different words.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And different niches, kind of.
Exactly. And so,
Right.
so we look at all areas of their finances, their emotional life, their relationships, everything, their profession, everything. And we kind of look at where they're at in those areas and where they want to be, right? And if things are kind of off balance, as you were saying the word balance, then we kind of put it in balance. And that balance is different for everybody.
Sure,
right?
sure.
For some people, it's really important. Their profession is more important to them than their relationships right now, let's say, right? And so that balance might look like this. A few years from now, that balance might change, right? But it's what's making them feel full and whole as a person.
Absolutely.
And bringing them to that point.
It's all about them. Same thing as in sex coaching. I mean, you want the person to feel whole. Yeah. They're a whole. You look at the whole person.
Yeah.
And the arrow is. I don't know if it's the same in life coaching, but the arrow is always pointed at them. So I don't have the answers. They have the answers.
Exactly.
We just ask the questions to help them find what the answer is to the problem or whatever it is that they need.
Yes.
So so it's very similar. You just focus on. So what are the areas that people come in and say, hey, Jen, you know, I'm really fucked up and I don't know how to fix myself. What would, like, if I came into you and I said, hey, you know, I'm just a fucking disaster. Can you help me? What would you say to me?
Well, I wouldn't use those words.
Okay.
You know.
We do use different terminology apparently as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, I think I would kind of say, well, what makes you feel that way? What's going on for you? And kind of hear what they're talking about. I find that most of my clients are women going through some major transition in life.
Right.
Whether that's a divorce, whether they're going back to work, or they're feeling very anxious. I have a few clients that have some anxiety, diagnosed with anxiety or depression.
I know all about that.
So needing to kind of ask those questions so that it can become more real. Because oftentimes, it's not that it's a fantasy, but it's not realistic what they built up in their head.
Right.
And so just bringing it down to reality for them and their reality. Right?
That's a very good point. So you think that people tend to build things up in their minds quite frequently, right? Yeah, okay, I agree. So what would you do if someone came in with these anxiety problems? Would you give them exercises? What would you recommend to someone that just said, hey, you know, exactly like you described, maybe I have a million things built up in my mind. And maybe it's something as small as taking out the garbage, and I'm having a tough time doing that. How would you help me to cope with that in terms of making me less anxious or making me see that as less of a hurdle?
Well, one of the things I say is play the tape through to the end.
Okay.
So you're anxious about taking out the garbage. What's making you anxious?
What do I have to answer this now?
Yes, you do.
I don't know. I guess maybe the fact that I have to go outside.
Okay, what's going on outside that's making you feel anxious?
It's cold out.
It's cold. Okay, so how can you help yourself not feel cold when you go outside?
I guess I could dress warm before I go take out the garbage.
Okay, and if you did that, then would the problem be solved?
I guess it would be, what if I felt like too much work to put on clothing? I'd like to be naked.
Okay, so if you like to be naked and you don't want to go outside because you don't want to take out the garbage, then the garbage could build up inside.
Right, that's true.
And then what happens?
Then I have a smelly naked environment.
And is that what you want?
It's not the right smell. No.
That's why.
So you're just asking a lot of questions.
Depends on the garbage.
No, I like that. I like how we just totally made up this story about how, you know, like have this garbagey naked apartment. So you said that the majority of your clients are women, and is it kind of a niche market you're going after? I mean, tell us about the business that you're doing. As I understand it, you are taking on, it's a lot about female empowerment and what we do here, right? So tell me about that a little bit.
Well, I have a passion for women.
Okay, me too.
I think it's a little different though.
Okay. Where do you feel your passion, just out of curiosity?
My passion is to help women realize just how strong and powerful they are.
Right.
And not in that way of, I am woman, I'm better than men. Not like that.
Right.
Right? But just to see their power within and what they can accomplish.
Sure.
Because there's so much. We all have such unique gifts, and only we can bring it to the world. And so just realizing what those are and bringing it out, for me, that's my high. Like some people get a high from drugs and alcohol and stuff. My high is seeing those light bulbs go off in someone's eyes.
The aha moments.
The aha moments,
yeah,
exactly.
sure. Well, that's fantastic. That's a good thing to be addicted to.
I think so.
You're changing lives. And that's how we met, actually. Let's go back to how I met you, because it was originally a fashion show that you were putting on.
Yes.
And at that point, I was just finishing some reality TV stuff, and you'd asked me to be a model.
Uh-huh.
And I agreed, and it was a great experience. Mm-hmm. But ever since then, you still have your hand in like I don't know how you do it, because I try to be a charitable guy, but every time there's always something that you're doing, and you're doing 10 other things. I'm like, holy shit, how does this woman do it, right? Which is amazing. Mm-hmm. So do you have anything coming up?
Yes, I do. So in April, there's a ladies' night. And it's going to be a fashion show at the Bellarmere Winery here in London, April 27th. And it's in support of child cancer, children suffering with cancer. And so I am totally of the belief that who much is given, much is required.
Right.
And so I think I have been blessed with so much in my life that I need to give back. Yeah. In any way that I can. And so having charity functions throughout the community, different times of the year, that's one of the ways that I feel I can give back. Well,
they're always fabulous, and I always try to help out in whatever way I can.
You do.
Maybe it's minimal, but I try to help.
Oh, you're great.
But so let's talk about that, because you feel like you've been blessed, but you've had some hurdles that you've had to face.
I have had hurdles.
So let's talk about some of the hurdles you've faced that have led you to the position that you're in today.
Well, it goes back to my childhood.
Okay. It usually does.
It usually does.
Yeah.
So when I was growing up, I was the model child. So, I did really well in school. I was in volunteer things. I was always busy. I was always doing, right?
Yeah.
And I was accomplishing. And then when I went to university, I was away from my parents, who were strict Caribbean parents.
Okay.
Right? And 3 years into university, I had to call up my parents and say, I'm kind of sort of pregnant.
So how was that phone call?
Oh my God.
So tell me about that.
So I remember I had called and I spoke to my mom, because mom is always easier to talk to.
I agree. I agree.
And so I told my mom, I'm like, yeah, mom, I'm pregnant. And she's like,
had they met the guy?
Yeah, they knew.
They knew.
Because we'd been together for about 3 years at that point.
Okay.
And so my mom's like, Jamaican mom.
Okay.
A little hysterical sometimes. Lord Jesus, oh my God! It was like the end of the world, right? And so she's like, okay, well, just come home and we'll help you with the baby. And I'm like, I'm not dying. I'm just pregnant.
Sure.
So anyway, so she's like, fine, and she was gonna tell my dad. And then I had to talk to my dad.
So how did that go?
Not well.
Yeah.
So your mother told me something.
Yeah. That's how it always starts.
I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I see.
That's
That was it. That was
really?
It. And then he didn't talk to me for a little while.
Really?
Now, he doesn't remember it that way.
Okay.
But I do.
Is this a typical male thing, would you say, that we tend to remember things differently than women do?
I don't want to stereotype.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure. Okay. Fair enough. So you and I have faced similar circumstances in that situation, because I also had a little bit of a surprise myself. Mm-hmm. The best surprise I've ever had in my life. She's the cutest thing, and I love her to pieces.
You know where I got that word surprise from?
Where?
Okay, do you remember that show, the Roseanne show?
Yeah.
Okay, so she was talking to her youngest son, DJ.
Yes.
And said to him, you weren't a mistake. They were talking about it. Somehow it came out. You weren't a mistake. You were a surprise.
Right.
A mistake is something you wouldn't do again.
Sure.
But a surprise is something that you didn't know was coming that you actually love.
Right.
So that's why I say.
That's a good differentiate. I like that differentiation for sure. Because so I had a surprise as well, and I remember that conversation with my parents. It took me a while, because I'm also from a pretty conservative, good family, typical good family, we'll call it. And I remember that conversation with my dad did not go well. It was one of those things where he had said, like, I haven't been, and I was 27 at the time of this conversation. So
you weren't a teenager.
I wasn't a teenager like you. It was still a surprise.
I wasn't a teenager.
Not a teenager, but early 20s, whatever. Okay, 22. Okay, so you're still an adult, but you're still pretty young, right?
Yeah.
So you weren't a teen mom. Sorry, you're not a teen mom. You're a 22-year-old young lady. That's still something that is obviously hard to overcome. So what did you do?
Well, I believe that if you don't feel, or no, I should say, if you feel that you can do something, then you can. So it was never in my head that I had to change the course of my life. It's like, okay, well, I have a baby, so now I have a baby and I still have to accomplish the goals that I set out for myself.
Right.
And so that was just my mindset.
Yeah.
And so I just did it.
Good for you.
Just did it.
Good for you.
So
Do you have any more kids?
I do.
So any more surprises?
Well, kind of.
Kind of,
not
okay.
Really, not really. So I have a 10-year-old.
Okay.
And so I got married a few years later. I met somebody and we got married. And
But so you had a son, right?
I had my son
At 22 years old.
at 22.
And then you married a different man.
A different man at 27. I was about 27.
Okay, at 27.
Yeah. And so I had, so we got married.
Yes.
Had my son, my 10-year-old, and then had a surprise after him.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you've had two big surprises.
Two big surprises.
but you're married at this point. You're a little older.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a surprise that's okay because I'm married.
Sure.
So it's okay now.
Right. It's okay.
It's
I
okay
see.
now.
It's accepted by
It's
society.
accepted. Well,
Got
by
it.
my father.
By your father. Okay. By the judge.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so I had those two. So I have an 18-year-old, a 10-year-old, and an 8-year-old.
And an 8-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Little miracles.
Yes.
That's
all
right.
boys.
Yeah. All boys.
All boys. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was saying to little Chris, God seems to think that, like, God doesn't give you more than you can handle, is what I keep hearing.
I agree.
And so he has a lot of faith in me because I don't know, some days I'm like, oh.
It's fun though, right? Like yeah. Okay, all right, fair enough. And the thing with my surprise, I mean, I have a daughter, and I thought I always wanted boys, and now I want nothing but. I love my daughter. Like I'll have daughters all day long.
How old is she?
She's 6 now. She's 6. I mean, she's a little princess, and I see her turning into this little woman so quickly, and that's why this is really important to do these kind of talks and to have people here because. I really want to make sure by the time that she's old enough to do the things that where she could potentially have a surprise, when that happens, I want her to be very well equipped with knowledge, and I want to make sure that everyone knows about consent, about female empowerment. I want her to have all the tools to make better decisions than I made, right? So, I mean, you always want for your kid better than yourself, I think.
Yes.
I think that's kind of how it works. But so we've kind of gone through the past. So did you have a strong sexual life in college? I mean, we can talk about that a little bit. It's sex and suicide. So 3 boys, you must like sex. Do you like sex, Jen?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So,
it's a healthy thing, right?
It is a healthy thing. So as I said, I came from a northern town.
Right.
Up north, very conservative. My only real view of the world was through American TV. Right?
Okay.
And
yeah.
so when I moved to London, Ontario,
Yes.
I'm in big city now.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure. Compared to what you're used to.
Compared to what I was used to,
Yeah.
a town of 26,000.
Right.
Right? And so I was in the big city and I was dating and I, enjoyed myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love listening to how people phrase that when I ask them. So you enjoyed yourself.
I enjoyed myself.
Good for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I was dating someone and we had a steady relationship and I got pregnant.
Right. Did you do anything in that relationship, like were you adventurous to like BDSM, like 50 Shades of Grey, or were you still... I always like to know if people were ahead of their time at that age. You're having
I've
kids...
never seen that movie. So
You haven't?
I have not seen the
You're
movie.
familiar with sort of BDSM and the kink lifestyle, things like that?
I am. Yeah.
Or are you fairly like conservative in the bedroom?
I am willing to try anything.
Good for you. Once?
At least
I'll do it
once.
twice. I'll always twice. Just in case there's something went wrong the first time, I'll do it twice. But good for you. Good for you. It's nice to have that open mind, and especially in sort of what I like to talk about, which obviously is sex. I like people to have an open mind and to keep that positive. So let's talk about relationships a little bit.
All right.
So you have young men that you're raising in the world. I have a young daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So as you raise these young men, I'm sure you want them to be gentlemen. What kind of hurdles do you face when raising men in the world today?
Well, my relationship with my husband didn't last.
Okay.
So he's now my ex-husband.
Yes.
And so I'm now faced with raising 3 boys on my own.
Right.
And not to say that they're not involved with their sons. They
Sure,
are.
sure.
The 2 baby daddies. Oh oh my god.
That's okay.
You know,
Hey,
so
times are changing.
times
They
are
have
changing,
changed.
I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, but they're involved. But the day-to-day stuff, it's me
Yeah.
raising them. And
Yeah.
so it's important for me to be an example to them of the type of woman that they need to be with in their lives.
I agree.
Right?
I just set the example of
Set
what
the example of what
you want
what
for them.
what they want, and then I have to be very mindful of the type of man that I bring into their life.
Sure.
Because he is going to be showing them and modeling for them
Right.
how to treat a woman.
Sure. Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so I take all of that very seriously. So I won't introduce them
right.
to men. If anything, they'll say, this is one of mommy's friends. And because I'm involved in so many things,
Yeah.
they don't know the difference.
Right.
Right? So
You have lots of friends.
I have
Yeah.
lots
Sure.
Well, yes.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know what I mean. Yes. You have actual friends. You have lots of actual friends. Yes. Not special friends. Not surprise potential friends. So when you were ending this relationship, because I've had a lot of questions lately from women that I've known that have been close to me, and other people that just kind of have popped out of the blue. It seems to be, I don't know what it is about springtime, but it's almost like people dive into relationships in the fall, and then spring approaches and all these problems surface that weren't there before. And I'm finding that, like, how did you know when it wasn't going to work with your husband or with your man? And when did you find the strength and power to move on your own? How was that for you?
Well, we had been experiencing a lot of financial difficulties.
Okay.
Right? And so that causes a lot of stress, especially on a young family.
Sure.
Right? And so then he ended up moving out of the province for work.
Yeah.
Right? And so now you have a relationship that was already kind of teetering.
Yeah.
Right? And he's gone, and I see him 4 times a year.
Right. So you have the long distance on top of the
long
financial.
distance on top of the financial and on top of the relationship issues. And then it just came to a point where we no longer, it's not that we didn't love one another, but we no longer had the respect for one another.
Was there resentment there?
There's resentment there. There's built up resentment, and then, other people get involved, and it just became a mess.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we forgot that we were married to one another.
Right.
Right? And
Yeah.
it was like he was over here and I'm over here, and we're living our own lives.
Right.
And so then it came to a point where it was like, you know what, this just isn't going to work for us
Right.
anymore. And so we decided that we were going to divorce.
Was it sort of a mutual decision, or did you lead that, or did...
He had asked for the divorce, and so I said, okay.
Yeah.
I
It had
wasn't
gotten
gonna
to the
fight.
point.
I was just like, you know what, we're not mutually trying.
Was that
We're not
scary?
both trying.
Was that a scary time to be facing that? I mean, you're a single mom now.
So it was like being a single mom again.
Right.
So there was a lot of guilt and a lot of shame.
Yeah.
That I felt.
Right.
Because the thought of, okay, I came from this really good family.
Sure.
Where Jenny was the princess.
Yeah.
And now Jenny doesn't have one baby daddy, but now Jenny got 2 baby daddies.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that feeling, and then the worst part of it is just watching my kids have to go through that.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that I promised myself when I got married was that this is going to work, because these kids are not going to have to experience what my eldest had to with having to visit daddy and go
Right.
back and forth. I just
Right.
didn't want that for my children.
Sure.
And that's what I got.
Yeah.
And so I felt bad about that.
Do you feel now, though, a sense of strength? Like, I'm sure you're a very strong woman. I know you, but I mean, do you think that was the smartest decision? Do you feel strong being a single mom and whole? Like, what if you had stayed with them just to please the kids? Do you think that would have been a big mistake? How do you feel about that?
I think that had we stayed together and not gotten the help that we needed, it would have been really bad for them to see.
Right.
It would have been worse for them to see that than for them to see mommy here and daddy over here.
Yeah.
And visiting. Because having 2 healthy parents is better than having 2 broken parents.
Absolutely.
And together we were just broken. We weren't healthy anymore.
So do you have people that come in to see you that are kind of in this position, and you might see a woman that's kind of at her wit's end, but she doesn't have the strength to leave, and you're just saying like, come on, I know you can do it, I know you'll be better off. What do you do in that situation? What's your advice?
It's really important that I don't voice my opinion.
Of course.
Right? Because it's their life. And in all reality, people are going to come and see you and they're going to tell you what they want you to know.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes you don't know all of the different aspects. So really, it's about planting seeds within them to get them thinking.
Right.
Right? And being able to admit things to themselves. But my advice to anybody that's going through relationship difficulties, and especially if there's children involved, is to make sure that you've tried everything that you can.
Yeah.
And if it means being separated for a little while and going and seeking outside help, then that's okay. But make sure that you've tried everything so that through 2, 3, 4 years down the road, you can say, you know what, I did everything I could do.
Sure.
And then that guilt doesn't have to be there.
So there's no regret.
And there's no regret.
Sure. Well, I think that's great advice. Do you guys agree with that? I want to know. Yeah, I want to know about.
You know, you say that you give everything that you can, but I've seen women give and give and give and still get nothing in return.
Yeah.
How much do you give? When do you know where to stop?
When's enough? When are you asking like when is enough enough?
Yes.
Enough.
And they try and they have young children and you know they feel like they can make these relationships work and maybe he'll come around and you know I'm gonna try, I'm gonna give it my all, but I see wasted years of these women that are strong and have so much potential, and I see that they can do so much better for their children. But they want to try.
And you know, you can't rush the process.
You can't.
You can't rush the process. People have to be ready to go when they're ready to go.
That's right.
I know that in the end, like when the divorce was final, I was just a mess.
Yeah.
Like the only reason I would get up in the morning is because I had my kids.
Right.
I went through a period where it's like, you know what, it would be so much easier if I just wasn't here. I really just, and when I started having those thoughts, I knew it's like, okay, that this isn't me.
So you're thinking about suicide at one point in time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, you know, if I just turned my wheel a little bit and crashed into that hole, I'd be.
Those are scary thoughts.
And it is. And when I started having those thoughts, I was like, whoa. Yeah. Okay, Jen, you need to get some support and help.
Sure.
And I had my best friend Colette and my sister Sarah right there with me.
Good.
They were right there with me. I had a very good support system.
Good.
And so I started to go and see a counselor, and all I needed to do was talk through the issues.
Good.
And really have that renewed hope. Like I always knew that, because the one constant in life is change.
Yes.
This situation isn't going to stay this way.
Right.
But it's so hard to go through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? It's so hard to go through.
I think that's amazing. I just want to stop you for a second for anyone that's watching, because anyone that has had suicidal thoughts or is thinking along those lines, or if you know someone that is, that's a very powerful story. I mean, Jen and I just talked about it. A lot of times people are thinking suicidal thoughts. They might not address it to anyone because they don't want to talk about it. So the goal here is to try to bring that topic of conversation to the point where it's comfortable, because as you said, as soon as you started talking about it, you realized, hey, life is worth living. And you found that thought scary. It's when people start to feel comfortable thinking about taking their own life, and that's when it becomes a really big issue. But good for you for getting help, and thank you for sharing. I didn't know that about you. So I appreciate that. That's not an easy thing to talk about. At that point, when you find you work through it, what was it that made you sort of realize, hey, you know, life is a blessing, life is a gift, when you're feeling like such a pile of shit? We've all been there, right? I mean, some to different extent than others, but what was it? What were the words that were said, or what was the feeling that made you decide that, hey, I want to stick this out? Was it looking at your kids, or what was?
Definitely my kids. But more so my faith. I believe in God, and I knew that He put me here for a purpose.
Right.
And my purpose hasn't been lived yet.
Sure.
And so it was like, okay, there has to be a lesson in this.
Yes. There's a lesson in everything.
There has to be a lesson in this. And what is the lesson that I need to learn? And then how do I take that lesson and help somebody else?
Right.
Because I'm not the only person feeling this way.
Not at all.
right?
Yeah.
But when you're going through it, you feel like
alone.
you are.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
But as you talk about it, and people say, "Oh yeah, I went through something like that," and it becomes a little bit normalized in a way. It's like, okay, so I'm not alone here.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? So.
Lots of days people feel like shit. People don't feel like getting out of bed. People get depressed. It's unfortunately it seems to be on the rise. It's something that we have less people believing in faith than ever before. I mean, I think that might be part of it. I mean, I believe in a higher power, be it the universe or whatever. I like to think that everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
So you went through everything that you did for probably what you saw the purpose of it is to help others.
Yeah.
So anyone that's feeling really shitty and feeling like maybe tomorrow isn't looking like they want to be here, just remember that there's a lesson in that you can teach to other people and help save lives.
Yeah.
I think at the end of it. So thank you for sharing.
No problem.
Little Miss Chris,
Yeah.
I want to get back to you for a second because I know that the breakup topic, I watched Little Miss Chris go through a breakup recently, and I have to say you're the strongest little thing because she didn't complain, she didn't nothing. She was so silent, and I guess for me, from sort of someone that's close to her that's looking in, you just think she's handling it well. But I think she was just keeping it quiet. She didn't want to burden anyone else. She listens to everyone's problems all day. Yeah. I know this because she listens to my fucking problems every day. So when you decided to leave, you're doing really well now. You're strong. Are you happy? Would you say you're happy now?
I'm getting there.
You're getting there, but that was a tough thing. So what was the breaking point where while Jen's here, I want to see you're saying do everything that you can so you have no regrets. I agree with that too, but I also agree with don't waste any more time if you know deep inside that that's not the relationship for you.
Yeah.
So where can we meet in the middle here? Do you know what I mean? How did it work for you?
I gave it time.
You gave it time.
I definitely gave it time. I went through it for about over a year. The last 6 months was really the final straws. We had taken a trip, didn't enjoy the trip. From the trip on, it was just okay, now how do I leave?
Yeah.
The how do I leave part was the hardest part. Not knowing how to leave.
Yeah.
And people saying just leave, and you don't know how to just leave.
Do you wish you had left sooner?
No, because I think I needed that time
Yeah.
to just make sure in my heart that was the right decision to make. Like you said, you can't. That's exactly what
you can't rush it.
Rush it. And I had a great support system that stood by me the entire time, knowing it wasn't the right thing for me to do, knowing it wasn't the right place for me to be, but always stood by me no matter what.
Right.
And when the decision was made for me to leave, they stood by me even more.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing for me. I mean, I had a great support system, and I'm so thankful for it. And like you said, I mean, it's when people are supporting you and behind you, it's the world. Yeah. It is. It's the world.
But I think it's also important that we make the differentiation. If you're in an abusive situation,
right, like an unhealthy
where you're being abused and your safety is at risk, that's a little bit different.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
You need to get out of that.
Yeah.
How do you know if a relationship is healthy or unhealthy? What are some key red signs? What would be red flags as to this relationship is totally not for you? You okay, buddy?
Do you say something?
No.
Vinny Chase is choking over there. I know CPR and first aid. Do you need it?
No.
Okay. So what would you say are some red flags like Vinny Chase's shirt over there, bright red?
Yeah. I think if you're in a relationship where you're feeling bad about yourself a lot more than you're feeling good about yourself, you need to start looking at that, what's going on here.
Okay.
I think if you're in a relationship where, like I said, it's abusive.
I feel like there's different levels of abuse.
There is.
Yeah.
There's
Yes,
definitely.
we talk about physical, emotional. The day-to-day too can be abusive, even though it's not physically abusive.
It can be discreet.
It can be very discreet.
Emotional abuse is hell.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it's killing of the spirit.
Yeah. Is that why people, when you're beating down someone's spirit inside, is that why sometimes you notice them completely change?
Oh, yeah.
It can be a big part of it, right?
Oh, yeah.
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 Okay. Would you guys say that cheating is an automatic dismissal? Or do you think that it's worth working through?
You know, I see cheating as a symptom of a bigger issue.
Okay.
I see, and there are couples that can work through that, and then there's other couples that can't.
Right.
It depends on the
circumstance?
involved,
I agree.
Really?
I agree 100%.
Interesting.
I never thought cheating was, that's it, close the door and you're done. I think there's always a bigger issue behind that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like I mentioned before, there's someone very close to me that was recently cheated on, and it turns out that her significant other is a sex addict, and there's an issue there. And my whole thing is, you know, I never thought that would happen to someone that's this close to me. But also, is that going to be like, is it like an alcoholic where you might slip up from time to time? Like, is his dick going to end up in someone else's pussy, like time and time again? And it's just going to be a whoops, it's my addiction. I mean, is that, do you deal with anything like that?
I haven't.
No.
I honestly haven't.
Yeah, because I haven't come across much of it either. It's kind of out of my realm. I think it's more like you have to see like a psychiatrist or psychologist for something like that. But I was just wondering, would it say that I'm dating whoever in the room, and you find out from some other woman that I've cheated on you, and then I come to you and say, I'm a sex addict, I need help. Do you ladies feel that you could stick by someone like that?
I think men who are sex addicts
Yeah.
would never admit that.
Would never admit that they're sex addicts?
No,
Really?
they don't see it as an issue.
What if I did though? What if I realized maybe that was I was self-aware that I was, but as a sex addict, does that mean you need to cheat? I mean, obviously, I'm not sure. I'm just wondering from a female standpoint whether or not that's something that you could accept and move on with, just for the sake of
Knowing that they're a sex addict?
Yeah.
Probably not.
That's pretty hard, right?
It's pretty rough.
If they were a sex addict and it was with me, they were having sex all the time.
Yeah. Right.
Sex addicts
Right.
don't usually,
You're addicted to
it's
me.
not
Yeah.
one person that they're usually satisfied with.
Right, and by all means, if there are sex addicts watching this, maybe you can help us out. Email us at sexandsuicidepodcast@gmail.com. I mean, obviously, you probably want to remain anonymous or whatever. We understand that confidentiality here, but we'd love to know more about how you kind of deal with that sort of thing. Go ahead, Vinny Chase.
I just want to say too that I don't dispute the fact that sex addiction is a real thing. But
Yeah.
I feel that a lot of times it's used as an excuse almost to justify your behavior.
Do you think people would use that as an excuse for cheating?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
that it's, you know, if you say you're a drug addict to someone,
Yeah.
that has an extremely negative stigma to it. If
Right.
you say you're a sex addict, like coming from a guy, it almost sounds like you're boasting. Like, oh, I'm a sex addict. Like,
At
sorry,
times-
you know?
Yeah,
Like,
at times it
It
can.
doesn't carry the same stigma, I feel, that other addictions do.
Right.
So while I don't dispute that sex addiction is a real thing, I think that a lot of times it's just used as a justification for, you know.
So you think there's men that maybe aren't sex addicts that are claiming to be at times?
That cheat and so I'm a sex addict. And I think, you know, even to say that you're a sex addict as a man, again, I'm not disputing it's not a real addiction, but
Sure.
I think that sometimes when it's not used, I mean, it can be a very egotistical thing to say. Right?
100%.
So I mean, you're talking about symptoms of you know, why people cheat. I mean, you know, someone could claim they're a sex addict, and the deeper problem is, hey, you're just really full of yourself.
Yeah.
And you need to, you know, satisfy your ego by sleeping with other people.
You can almost do, I bet you, I've never looked this up by any means, but I bet you if there was a test you could do for sex addiction and a test that you could do for sociopathic behavior.
I was thinking that too.
There's probably some crisscross there.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a dangerous thing to say, but I would, because I feel like there's some narcissistic tendencies there, and I don't know the deeper issues of it, but anyway. So we kind of got off track. You're not a sex addict, are you, my dear? Because we didn't offend anyone in the room. Okay. By the way, I'm just talking about my own addictions here, just so everyone. No, I'm just totally kidding. Okay, so back on track here to relationships. So you did some pretty cool posting around Valentine's Day about what you thought would be some cute little dates. Do you want to share some of those? Because some of those are pretty cute.
Okay.
If I wanted to take Vinny Chase on a date, but I didn't have much money, what would you recommend?
Okay, well, one of the things that I said, and this will help in any relationship, is just to listen.
Yeah.
just listen to things that they say. So if your partner is saying things like, oh, I wish I could do this, or I wish I could do that, like I wish I could, whatever that fantasy might be, and if you are able to make that fantasy come true,
Mm-hmm.
that's a wonderful day. That's a wonderful surprise. And then for me,
Yeah.
that's my love language. Listen and talk, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And so it's like, oh, he listened to me.
That's sort of, would you say that's the same thing as quality time?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. When you're talking about love languages.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
Yeah.
quality time is sort of listening and exchanging
Yeah.
your deep thoughts and looking into each other's eyes and actually actively listening, not just
Yes.
like phone in one hand,
Yes.
looking at porn like Vinny Chase does. So yeah, well, lucky for me, I listened to Vinny Chase, and it just so happens that his fantasy is just getting a nut busted on his face. So I could do that, but I'm just totally. Anyways, back on topic here. So, for dating and relationships, are you single at the moment?
I'm single at the moment.
Okay, so gentlemen, we have a very eligible female who also knows a thing or two about being self-aware, which I'm not going to say is rare in women, but it shows maturity in women. Would you say that we were talking about emotional intelligence earlier? So would you say that, and without being, I know we're not going to discriminate between men and women and all that, but would you say that women are generally more like just kind of as a trend, emotionally intellectual creatures, or more in touch with their feelings per se? I guess would that be another way to say? How would you define emotional intelligence anyway, so people understand what I'm talking about?
Define emotional intelligence?
Yeah.
Emotional intelligence has 4 quadrants, right? So you're being more self-aware, aware of your feelings, aware of your triggers, just aware of yourself.
Okay.
Right? And then it's also being socially aware of the social cues. So if I'm talking to you and you start going on your phone, or you're like yawning like crazy, then you're not engaged in the conversation. And I need to be able to read those cues.
So you're picking up on body language.
Picking up on body language.
Yeah.
And then there's relationships, right? And building relationships and stronger relationships. And then there's a 4th quadrant, and it's just totally gone from me.
That's okay.
But yeah, so there's
The 4th quadrant's fine. We don't need it. I'm good with 3. I have to work on the first 3, and then I'll get to the 4.
But
we'll call that the surprise.
but basically, there's just being more aware of yourself. So they say the more emotional intelligent you are, the more successful you'll be in life.
Right.
And success not necessarily being financial.
Sure.
But success being in relationships and just as a person as a whole.
Right.
And that's more important than a person's IQ.
I agree.
Because someone can be extremely bright, but has no common sense.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And those are difficult people to be around because they're not aware of themselves.
I want to say something.
Go ahead. You can jet in anytime you want.
I felt that in my relationship, in my past relationship, where I felt like I was emotionally invested in myself and him and others, and that was just natural for me, and I enjoyed it, and it made me happy, whereas I didn't feel he was in the same boat. So he took himself away from people. He didn't know how to build relationships, and I thought in time, with me being beside him, that I could teach him or I could show him the way, but it never worked. You just can't, I don't think you can teach people that. I think it's either in you or it's not.
But there's different things. There's this book called Emotional Intelligence 2.0. Travis Bradley, I believe, is the author. And it's an amazing book because it actually gives you practical tips on how to enhance and become better in the different quadrants. So it all comes to practice, right? You do something over and over again, it's going to become part of your life.
Right.
Right? And so I think you can increase your emotional intelligence, but it takes work. And you have to do it on purpose.
And they have to want to.
And they have to want to.
Sure. You can't just do work because like, for example, in a relationship, I've said to women before, I'll change or whatever. Just you say what you have to say to keep your foot in the door. But I had no intention. Like, I didn't know how the fuck to change. It's like, what am I gonna? All right, I'll be better, whatever. But you actually have to research how to become the person that they're requesting of you. And until you really want to be that person, nothing's going to change.
Right, yeah.
So do you think that what you're describing, Little Miss Chris, do you think that she's describing emotional intelligence, or would that just be insecurity?
On his part?
Yeah. Or is there
immaturity? It sounds like
immaturity?
Yeah.
You think?
I
Yeah.
think so. I think as we get older and go through different experiences, if we actually take the time to sit and think about what we've gone through and how we can do things differently next time, then that's when the maturity comes.
Right.
Right? But if we just keep getting into relationship after relationship after relationship, doing the same thing over and over again,
Yeah.
you're just going to end up with the same thing. What do they call that? Insanity.
Yeah. Same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to go along with the jumping from relationship to relationship thing,
Yeah.
I've always found that sort of curious because, like, I feel like people go into relationships expecting the wrong things. Like, if I saw this talk, I don't know who the gentleman was that was speaking, but he was talking about both parties in a relationship, a guy and a girl, and, like, what your expectations should be going into a relationship. And it seems to me that these people, like serial monogamists, who go from relationship to relationship, they're looking for something for themselves. Right? They're uncomfortable being single because they're looking to gain something from another person.
Right.
I'm going to be in a relationship now after I've been single for 2 months because I need to be in a relationship for the security or the, emotional companionship.
Just to have someone there.
Right. And his point was that your attitude going into a relationship should not be, what can I get from this? It should be, what am I prepared to give? Right. Both parties should have that attitude so that, as a guy, you're going into a relationship thinking like, okay, what can I give to this woman? Right. Physically, emotionally, support-wise. And it shouldn't be like, oh, what can I get from her? Which is what I think a lot of guys, younger guys too, go into relationships for.
Yeah, but I think that goes both ways now, because when I talk to a lot of guys in university, and this comes out in, let's face it, it's going to come out in the sexual act itself as well. But women are saying more frequently, like, get me off, or guys are feeling like they have performance anxiety, like they have to perform. Where it's not about so much giving to the other person as it is about getting now. I mean, people aren't as concerned with making the other person feel good as they are about just getting something out of it. So I think that goes sort of hand in hand. And how do you approach relationships? How do you approach sex? How do you approach anything with whatever gender you're attracted to? Right. Yeah. You should approach it as a way of, what can I give to this person? How can I... Yeah, I agree with you, and you should want to be an asset to that person's life rather than to be a liability.
I'm reading this book, Love, Sex, and Dating.
I see that.
Yes.
You have it here.
This book.
Are you getting paid by this advertising?
I am not.
Okay.
I really should have.
Who's this guy?
Andy Stanley.
You'll be getting a tweet from us, buddy.
He's a pastor out in Atlanta.
Okay.
Okay, so he wrote this book, and there's this story in there about, so it's Christian based. Okay, just to put that out there.
So is the 5 love languages, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. The Gary Chapman, I think.
Yeah.
So
he was a pastor too, I think.
I'm not sure.
I think he was. Anyways, continue.
Anyway, so there's a story in here, and it talks about how there was a girl that he was counseling, and the girl said to him, I'm looking for Mr. Right, and Mr. Right has to be good looking. He has to have a job, he has to be financially stable, he has to be a Christian, all of these kinds of things. That's what she was looking for, right? So this girl, she was brought up in a Christian home, and she ended up going to university and putting all her Christian values aside and just going from guy to guy to guy to guy to guy, right? And then one day she met Mr. Right. And she's like, oh my gosh, I've met him. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And she went home for the weekend and was telling her mom about her encounter with this guy. And her mom looked her dead in the eye and said, honey, I'm glad you met this guy, but you aren't the type of girl that he's going to want to be with.
Really?
Right? And she
How did she know that?
Because of the way she was acting, her choices that she was making. This guy had very strong Christian values and all of these kinds of things. She wasn't living her life that way.
She was more promiscuous, going from guy to guy to guy.
Yes, and I guess other choices that she was making. It didn't really get into the details.
Sure.
It just indicated that she wasn't living the type of life that a guy like that would want.
Right.
So the point that Andy Stanley was saying was that instead of always searching for someone that with all of these qualities you have,
become that person.
Think about becoming the person that person would want.
Sure. Yeah.
Because if that's who you want, then that's who you have to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so work on yourself, essentially, is what he's saying. And when you work on yourself, then you're going to attract what
I agree.
want.
100%. I think that's, I couldn't agree more. I think you hit the nail sort of bang on the head there. I think that instead of trying to search for this ideal person, all you do is put time into yourself and just attract that person.
And prepare yourself.
Prepare for it.
Prepare yourself.
Be
like
patient.
anything else.
Yeah.
Like if you want to be a track star, you got to prepare until you can get to that race.
Right.
Right?
Not
anything
me, though.
In life.
I'm just brilliant. Anyway, Superman doesn't prepare for shit.
In anything in life, when you want to be prepared for when that opportunity comes.
Right.
Prepare yourself.
Good. So would you say you're preparing yourself for Mr. Right?
I am preparing
I think you're doing a
myself.
pretty good job of it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, just to get back to something that you said here, because I've always been curious about this. Wow, I can't even move on this chair. That microphone's making it sound like I'm farting over here. So, women, I've never done this before. I should probably do this, but I've been told that, like, all these stories about if you don't know what you want, then you're not. It's almost as though as soon as you're clear on what you want, if you write it down, it will more than likely come to you.
Mm-hmm.
All these women seem to go, and men too, myself included, seem to know what they don't want, but don't know what they want. Do you help people figure out?
Yes.
And do you think writing it down is a good idea?
It is a good idea. The thing is, if you focus on what you don't want, then that's what you're going to keep attracting.
Right.
You notice that? Like
Yeah.
when you say, I don't want this, I don't want that, then those people just keep coming.
Sure.
Because that's what you're focusing on.
Yeah.
But if you focus on what you want,
Yeah.
then that is what you're going to attract.
Okay.
Because I think the universe and our brains are like amazing things, right? And so when what we put into it is what's going to come out of it,
Yeah.
right? Our
I agree.
subconscious is totally guiding our consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we don't even realize it.
That's true. Well, a lot of the behaviors that we still do were programmed as we were kids, and our subconscious uses that as a way for us to still kind of survive in the world when we don't need any of that anymore.
And that's why it's so hard to break bad habits, because we're so conditioned to a certain behavior, right? And we're constantly doing that behavior because that's what we know. So it's kind of like it might be negative, but I know what that negative is going to bring.
Sure.
I don't know over here what a positive behavior is going to do, so I'm not going to do that because I'm scared of that. I don't know it.
So do you think that there's a lot of people that are fearful of the uncertain?
Of the unknown.
Of the unknown.
Of the unknown. People are scared of the unknown. They'd rather go with what they know than what they don't know.
Could that be a reason why, I'll get to you in a sec, buddy, could that be a reason why people maybe are staying in shitty relationships because at least they know it as opposed to what they don't know?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Vinny Chase.
So you were talking about the unknown a couple seconds ago, and then you've just been talking about the lists, right?
Yeah.
Writing down what you want in a partner. So, and you were saying that was a good thing, right? So, do you think that there's any negative, I don't know, just do you think it can be a negative to write down, like to have a very defined list of qualities that you want in a person? And the reason I ask is just because I feel like a lot of times women run down this mental checklist of the things that they want in a guy, and I'll see like girlfriends that I have, they'll do it, and I'll just kind of like, it makes me think like it's almost like you're so focused on what you want that you're just, there's all these other opportunities and other guys, right, who have personalities who you're just not familiar with because you have your own set of experiences. And I almost feel like writing things down and being that strict about them almost puts you at a disadvantage, because whether you know it or not, you just cut yourself off from all these other people.
Well, maybe it's a superficial list as well. I mean, when you're saying, if someone's writing down like, oh, he has to be drop dead gorgeous or she has to be drop dead gorgeous, you're not really looking for a long-term partner, because anyone that has any fucking sophistication level whatsoever knows that we are going to change. Our looks are not going to last forever.
Right.
So the most important thing is to find someone who's, you know, and I think that comes with maturity too. But I would say that a lot of the women at your age, no offense, are probably focused on the wrong things.
No, for sure. Absolutely. I agree. I guess I was just thinking, like, you know, I see women who, like, have that checklist, and sometimes it's superficial, sometimes it's not.
Right.
And, you know, a guy will meet, I don't know, like 8 out of the 10 requirements and fall short on 2, and it's like, he's gone, right? And it's like, well...
You think there should be a little more compromise in the list?
Like, I mean, you're not going to find a perfect person. You're not going to find a perfect guy. You're not going to find a perfect girl. Like, so why look for a 10 out of 10 checklist? And I feel that's what a lot of guys and girls do. And then they just start eliminating people.
Right.
And
maybe you need a realistic
here's my
list.
question to people who make these lists.
Right.
Do you have a list for yourself? Right.
What does that mean?
Meaning, what type of person are you?
Right.
And be real about it.
Right.
I can't expect the guy that I attract, the guy that I want, to be financially stable if my finances are a huge mess.
Right.
That's not fair.
No.
Right? Make a list for yourself, a realistic list, and make a list for what you want, and make sure that they match.
You're saying that it's unrealistic for me to post a bunch of half-nude pictures on Instagram and get some woman to fly me on trips to Dubai and all around the world? That doesn't happen?
Real, Shawn. It's pretty real.
Ah, fuck. There goes my list. So I can't be a kept man? Ah, damn.
You could. I don't know how happy you'll
No,
be.
well, we can ask some of these Instagram models. I'm sure we can get some of them on here. But I agree. I think, what's that?
I just had a comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
To that respect.
From legal.
I think, yes,
Yeah.
from legal. I have no problems
I'm in
with
trouble now.
checklists.
I'm in trouble.
I like paperwork. I have no problems
I
with
know.
checklists.
You're organized. You're an
I'm
organizer.
organized,
Yeah.
and I do have a checklist for myself, constant checklist that I'm adding stuff to. And going to your earlier point, obviously you have to think what you can give in the relationship. It's important. You have to learn things about yourself in the process, and to learn loving to give.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there is nothing wrong of wanting to get certain things out
Right.
of relationship.
Yeah.
There are certain things that I'm looking in a partner
Yeah.
where if those things are not there, I will never settle.
Right. I don't think we want anyone to ever settle.
Exactly. But I'm just saying that if you have an understanding the partner you want, and maybe you're still not there as you're saying,
Right.
obviously you have to realize that, but then instead of lowering your standards, you have to go up in your standards to yourself
Yes.
to match that, as you're saying, right? But not just, oh, okay, I'm financially unstable now, so now I'm just going to post, that I'm looking for a financially unstable guy
No.
to join
No.
my family. But no, I'm talking obviously about the extreme here, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying that having an understanding of, what exactly I want in a person, that's really good, I think.
Yeah.
And having of understanding of what you don't want either, it's a good start to get to knowing what you want. If I know what I don't want, people come my way anytime, but if I know that that's what I don't want, it's not that I'm attracting that, I'm just going to say bye to a person right
Sure.
away, recognizing that.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think a lot of the reason why relationships aren't working is because we do settle, right?
Absolutely.
I just don't want to be by myself. He doesn't have everything on my list, and
Yeah.
okay, I'll just, it's okay. I can help him. I can fix him. Or I can do it. And, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Drives me
And
nuts.
that's the problem.
Yeah.
Because there's this thing that I saw on Facebook one time. It said, when somebody shows you who they are,
Believe them.
believe them.
I saw that. I love that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When someone shows you who they are, believe them.
Yeah. Whether it's positive or negative.
Yeah. It's true.
No, I agree 100%. I think that I couldn't agree more. I think that there's so many people out there that settle now because of this fear of being alone. And you're a prime example of someone who's like got a lot of you have kids with different fathers, and you're still okay being strong because you know that's not for you. You don't know what's out there for you, but you're not afraid to go after whatever it is. You're a fucking inspiration.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Because I think that there's a lot of people that would feel much safer staying into that, just whether they realize it or not, an unhealthy relationship. And we didn't go to the red flags, so let's talk about some red flags about unhealthy relationships. Like what, besides, I mean, I know you said whether you're feeling worse about yourself than feeling better. Is there anything else that's gonna say that you're in a fairly new relationship, and things start, say that he wants to or she wants to try to hold you back from going out with your friends, or wants you to post less or wear more clothing or things like that. I mean, these are simple things that people are up against. Do you think that's how do you feel about that? Tell me about that.
I think it all depends on people's intention and what's going on for a
Okay.
person, right? Like one red flag, for example, is someone who's going to go to you and say, like, I need you in my life, I can't live without you.
That's a big red flag.
That's a red flag.
Yeah.
Because you need to be strong within yourself, and I'm in addition to you.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm helping to make things
Better,
but I don't want to be that missing puzzle link. Like there's that
Yeah.
thing about you're the missing link, you're that puzzle piece that's always been missing.
That's been an old-fashioned thing, like
has
the
been.
missing piece. You think that's the wrong way to approach
I do.
I do too.
I do
too. I
Because
think you need to be whole
Yes.
and find someone else that's whole, just like you're saying, and complete one another, right? But you're not necessarily because you're missing something.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
So that would be one. Jealousy, high insecurity, someone who's very insecure.
Big red flag there.
It's a big red flag.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we all have certain level of insecurity.
Sure.
All of us do. But when it's so much that you're using it to manipulate,
I've heard that a few times recently, actually.
that's a red flag.
The manipulation.
The manipulation. Like, oh my gosh, you're going out and you're gonna meet all these girls and I'm gonna be here all by myself and oh, I can't believe you're going out and leaving me here.
Wow.
Like,
Go ahead, because then
I was just thinking, because manipulating someone in that way, it seems like a very emotionally intelligent thing to do. At the same time, it shows an astounding lack of emotional intelligence. So I don't know. I'm wondering about that.
I don't know if it's an emotionally intelligent. I think it's intelligent, but maybe not so emotionally.
Yeah, it doesn't seem emotionally intelligent.
No.
But I mean.
And if I have a boyfriend and I say to him, I really don't want you going out because I think that you're gonna cheat on me. That says more about me than it does about him. And if you think that your guy can't go out with his friends and not cheat on you, you don't need to be with him.
Sure. Pretty simple. So yeah, I mean, I'm on board with everything that you're saying, and I mean, it's so easy for a couple single people to sit here and say things like this because it's almost like common sense as soon as you get out of it. But when you're emotionally intertwined with someone, the blinders are on sometimes, right? Like everybody can be telling you that this is no good for you, and all it takes is that little thing of manipulation or whatever, and you're right back in where you started.
But you gotta take it slow. You can't rush relationships. I think earlier in the podcast you were talking about how people get in a relationship in the fall and then it all breaks up or whatever.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
I honestly believe it takes about 6 months for the real person to come through.
6 months so
I think about 6 months because you meet someone, everyone's on their best behavior.
Sure.
Right?
So is it a red flag within the first 6 months though if there's trouble?
Oh, you gotta look at that because everyone's putting their best foot forward
in the first 6 months.
The first 6 months.
Yeah,
right?
that's supposed to be the honeymoon period, right?
It's supposed to be where everything is wonderful and we never fight and blah blah blah.
Right.
Blah, blah, right.
So 6 months is where, and if you and I were dating, just hypothetically, I always like to talk to the person as though we're in the situation. 6 months goes by. Now, some of the things that maybe I found cute are now sort of starting to annoy me, and that's how it happens, right?
Right.
So in that situation, what are you okay with when the blinders are on in the honeymoon phase? What is okay to overlook and what isn't?
It depends on the people involved.
I guess you're right.
It depends on the people involved. But take your time. Like everybody's in love in 2-3 months. Everyone's in love. I love him. It's never been so great. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Take your time. Just take your time. If after 6 months, a year, you're still feeling you're in love and you can work things out, and the big test is when you have an argument.
Okay.
How do you argue? Like, do you argue fair?
Or do you hit below the belt?
Or do you hit below the belt?
Yeah, I've had a few of those relationships.
What I mean? Because that's when the true person comes out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If we're in an argument and you're going to tell me that I'm this, that, and the other, and then afterwards you're going to buy me flowers and say, oh, I'm so sorry. It's It's like, red flag for me.
Yeah, the damage is already done, and that's going to continue to surface.
There's a way to disagree, and there's a way for us to work things out without yelling, screaming, carrying on.
Especially if there's kids involved.
Especially if there's kids involved.
Right.
You wanna show them how to argue, essentially. You know, how to have a disagreement.
Right.
Right. And I know it's easier said than done, because I mean, when you're in the situation and things are heated, I get it.
Yeah.
But it's all about respecting the person that you're talking to, right?
That's a skill. Like, a lot of people don't realize, and I mean, I haven't mastered it by any means. I'll still blow up on people from time to time. But arguing with people and properly presenting your point is a skill that really should be developed, and is probably lacking these days. Yeah. Go ahead, Vinny.
I was also gonna say too. I mean, we were talking about the 6-month thing and people that you love and stuff like that. And I was just wondering, like, do you think that a lot of that goes back to what you think your definition of love is too? Because I feel like that's really something that a lot of people don't quite have a strong grasp of. I'm in love, right? And it gets tossed around like very easily.
There's lots of differences between infatuation and lust. And
I think it takes a lot of emotional intelligence too to be able to tell, like, is this love or am I just like...
What quadrant are you speaking from, Vince?
I don't know.
I was doing some Facebook Lives for a little while.
Yeah.
And in one of them, I was talking to a girl had messaged me about relationships and stuff like that. And similar conversation to what we're having here. And I said to them, don't have sex.
Don't have sex.
Don't have sex. Because what happens when you have sex, all of a sudden, you're in love. Right? And especially if the sex is like, blows your mind.
You can get addicted to that sex. What? Sure. You can fall in love with the sex.
You know what I mean?
Well, just biologically too. I mean, that...
I know.
You're
connected with someone. I mean,
100%.
When you are having sex with someone, that is the most intimate thing that you can do with somebody.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so save it for a little while and just kind of test the waters, because there's not. You know what? In all honesty, there's nothing worse than being in a relationship, having sex with someone, and then it ends.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
What about people?
That was good.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that does sound bad.
That does sound bad, yeah. What about people that, okay, so we're talking about, this is the most, like, connecting thing you can do with a person, right? On a physical level, anyway.
Especially for a woman.
Especially for a woman. So what about nowadays, these women, let's talk about female empowerment, because that's what we're here for today. With it, so would you say that it's empowering that women are now going out, sharing themselves and their bodies with different men like they're giving away this connection like it's nothing, and some people would define that as empowering because we're breaking stigmas and a man can be a stud but a woman's a slut kind of thing, right? So is that empowerment, or is that just lack of self-awareness when it comes to how to connect with people? What do you think that is?
Again,
that's a pretty complicated question.
It is, and I think it's individually based, but at the same time, it's like there's two things in life that are extremely valuable.
Yeah.
One is time, because you can't get it back.
Right.
Right? Once it's gone, it's gone.
Yes.
And one is your body.
Yeah.
You are extremely valuable.
Yeah.
Why am I going to give the most valuable asset I have to Tom, Dick, and Harry?
That's true.
Why?
I don't know. What did Tom, Dick, and Harry do to deserve my temple?
Thank
Tom,
you.
Dick,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Fuck Tom, Dick, and Harry. You guys don't get my temple anymore.
Save yourself. And I'm like, not everybody's going to save themselves to marriage, right?
Sure, I understand.
And I understand that. I'm realistic. We live in this world. I get it. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that after knowing someone for a week, 2 weeks, you just had a few good dates, you're going to sleep with them. You don't know this person.
Right, that's true.
You don't know this person. They are presenting to you what they want you to see.
Sure.
So just give it some time.
But at the same time, right, it's all about, at the end of the day...
Wrong time to start talking.
At the end of the day, it's how, as a woman, how you feel about yourself, right? Because if you're going on a date with someone, and then you're feeling pressured because you like that person, basically to eventually sleep with them sooner.
I don't know you ever want to sleep with someone under pressure.
No, but I mean, I feel like some women do though. Men might not think about that, right? But some women, they would do it sooner with someone because they like a person.
And they're afraid he might not stick around if they don't.
Sometimes I've heard some of my friends say that.
Yeah.
So
It's
that's
a valid
possible.
it's a valid fear, but like I don't know if that's necessarily what you want to act on.
Yeah, I think that's
Absolutely, you shouldn't act on that. But if you're just doing that because you want to, because you feel good about in the moment, because you feel like that's a good moment, and you're not regretting it after, I don't see what's wrong with it.
There's
And that's the question I'd have. How are you feeling afterwards? What's the message you're telling yourself afterwards? Like if this guy, if you sleep with him and he never calls you again, how does that make you feel? If you could care less, okay, fine. But if you're telling yourself, oh, you know, I must have done something wrong, or I'm this or I'm that, then
And I have a question to you. Who said I want him to call me back?
oh
Well,
zinger.
and I was just gonna say, like, obviously this is from a guy's perspective, but like,
And
I feel like
and
there's,
it's legal.
yeah, legal. But I feel like there's different kinds of people, and part of that comes
Absolutely.
from you know
Yep.
nature, and some of it comes from nurture, right?
Yep.
But like, I know I have guy friends that like are perfectly happy with one night stands and can do them and do not give a damn,
Sure.
right? I'm not like that. I've done it before, but
Yeah.
like, I feel bad afterwards, right? I can't do it. I
Yeah.
don't like it.
I don't think you're giving yourself the opportunity to really reach your max performance and have a great connection either. I think that until you kind of get to know each other and break down some of those walls, how can you really have the best sex with that individual? Sometimes it just clicks, but more often than not, it doesn't. And you're gonna have better sex if you just give it a few tries, and unless you know it's wrong right away. In that case, obviously, break it off. But anyway. Anything else you want to add to our conversation here? We could chat about this for forever.
Yeah.
This is a big topic, so we should probably cut it off for this evening. But is there anything else you want to add? What is the message that you want to share with women today on International Women's Day? I think you've done a great job of sharing. Everybody has, by the way, of sharing, simple things that maybe people are overlooking in their relationship, and just how to be better people. So anything else that you want to say? Big message?
well, the hashtag for International Women's Day is Be Bold for Change.
Okay, I like
Right.
that.
And so I was saying to you earlier that 100 years ago, we weren't even considered people.
Right.
We were owned by our husbands, and we couldn't get an education. Now we can. And what I would love to see 100 years from now is that it's not abnormal for a woman to be prime minister,
Right.
or for women to be the CEOs of huge conglomerates.
Sure.
It's not an abnormal thing. It's just an everyday thing.
So we still have some hurdles to overcome.
We still have some hurdles to come. Men and women are not the same. We are physically different,
Yep.
right? And we're not the same, but we do deserve to have equal opportunity.
I agree.
Right? And that's the fight that we have to keep fighting.
Sure. And I'm on your side with that. Like I said, I mean, I think that it's always been considered a man's world, quote unquote. And I don't think the world's in the best possible standing at the moment. So I'd much welcome the opportunity for it to become a woman's world and see what happens from there. So
You know, I would say, wouldn't it be great if we could work together?
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
And because men have certain strengths,
Yes.
women have certain strengths, and if we put it together, what could we do? What
Okay.
could we accomplish?
So how do we get there? I mean, maybe that's something for a whole other show.
I think so.
But anyway, thank you so much for coming,
Thank you
Jennifer
for having
Slay. If you guys want to reach her, I'll put all her contact info on her social media, but maybe we can get you some clients out of this. I mean, we'll see what happens.
Thank you.
If not, come and support her charitable events, albeit a lot of them as well. So thank you to Vinny Chase, as always. Little Miss Chris, thank you for joining us. And Legal, thank you for your input tonight.
You're gonna get sued one day. I'll be there. I'll be there to fight it.
When I get sued?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, when that day comes, I've got good protection, obviously. She's not afraid to hit it and quit it. So, on that note, guys, thanks for tuning in to this week's Woman Crush Wednesday. And we've got a really big show for you guys in the weekend. Spenny will be joining us from Kenny vs. Spenny, as well as Tony Lee, the X-rated hypnotist. Also 2015 Canadian Hall of Fame award winner. So that's going to be a fun one, totally different, all mostly about sex and lots of profanity. So that one will be more fun. We'll see you Sunday at 10 p.m. Eastern, okay? Thanks, guys.